On the 4th of May 1934, workers digging a trench for a water pipe in the Bad Dürrenberg spa gardens made an exceptional discovery. A local conservator was given just a couple of hours to excavate before the trench had to be filled in, so he quickly removed the burial and the grave goods. He also made a report and documentation sketch, but beyond that, no photographs were taken, nor was it precisely recorded how the skeleton had lain in the grave, or where each individual grave good had been located. Hi, I'm Louise, and in this video we will explore the burial of the Bad Dürrenberg Shaman, one of the richest Mesolithic graves in Europe. Be sure to watch until the end of the video for the latest evidence, including what was placed there 600 years later. Inside the burial was an adult woman, aged 30 to 40, in a seated position, and an infant 6 to 8 months old, whose sex could not be determined, placed between her legs. The burial was completely filled with red ochre and accompanied by 140 artefacts and animal bones, around 65 fragments of tortoise shells and around 120 fragments of sweetwater mussels. The bones of the adult woman have been radiocarbon dated to 7080 to 6230 BC, which is in the Mesolithic period. This is an unusual number of grave goods for the Mesolithic, and not only the quantity, but also the composition is exceptional. One of the central objects is the skull of a roebuck deer with the antlers still attached, which was possibly worn as a headdress. There was also around 50 pendants made of frontal teeth of wild cattle, steppe bison, red deer and roe deer, which presumably adorned the woman. There was also a long bone of a crane that was used as a container for 31 exceptionally well-made microliths. Most items can be described as pieces of personal ornamentation or practical objects. Most objects are also polished and carry signs that indicate extensive periods of use before their deposition. It's therefore interpreted that most artefacts in the grave reflect the personal belongings of the woman who was buried there. In fact, it seems like the items in here are sort of an individual toolkit, because the composition consists of just a variety of small quantity single objects or artefacts. You know, there's a couple of awls, a single polished axe, and then one container with these microliths in. Only the large number of mussel shells and some animal bones could be described as potential offerings. These items all suggest that this woman was richly equipped, not just in death, but also in life, and likely had a very high social status. In wider central Germany, only a few known graves exist from this period, and these only contain a few objects. So within its regional context, the burial of Bad Dürrenberg remains an absolutely exceptional case. A polished axe made from local river gravel originally led to the conclusion that this burial dated to the contact period between the Mesolithic and early Neolithic populations in Central Europe. This original interpretation was also greatly influenced by the ideologies of 1930s Germany. Archaeologists were a key part of Hitler's aims to strengthen nationalism through researching the German past. The main aim was to research the history of the Aryan race, hoping to eventually prove that a mythical prehistoric Nordic population had ruled the planet. The Nazis believed they were descendants of this population, which would therefore justify their actions. And as the Nazis believed this burial belonged to a white man from the Neolithic, this was the perfect evidence for them to strengthen their claims. However, the radiocarbon dating places it well before the earliest evidence of the linear band ceramic Neolithic culture in the area, and we know the skeleton belongs to a woman, so they were completely wrong. Like I said, osteoarchaeological analysis revealed the individual was an adult woman, aged 30 to 40, and an infant, 6 to 8 months old. The woman had a slender build and would have been about 1.55 metres tall, which is typical height for this period. Now, here's where things start to get interesting. An anomaly that looks like a small constriction was found at the base of the skull, at the edge of the great occipital hole. This isn't caused by decapitation, as has previously been suggested, but instead it's likely caused by a blood vessel that grew unusually. The first vertebrae in the neck, which is called the atlas bone, didn't fully form because of a birth defect. It's only 40% complete and its shape matches the anomaly on the skull. Later discoveries, which more on these shortly, included the second neck vertebrae, which is the axis bone, which also had a strange feature, a bony bump that could block blood flow to the brain. If the head was held in a certain position, it might have squished this blood vessel, causing some effects which could have been intentionally done. This blockage probably didn't cause any serious health problems, but it might have made the person's eyes move uncontrollably. This is a condition called nystagmus. To her wider Mesolithic community, this may have appeared to be her possessing shamanistic abilities, especially when triggered on purpose. This in turn attributed to her a higher social status, hence such a rich, extraordinary burial. Shaman is a type of spiritual practice and belief system that's been suggested to have originated with the hunter-gatherer societies, like the Mesolithic people. Some aspects of shamanism include the framework of a three-tiered world, with an upper world of spirits, a middle world of the living, and an underworld of the dead, all linked by either a pillar, tree, or river. They also believe in a soul possessed by both human and animals, and that we should have reciprocal relations with animals and need to treat them with respect. So animals that are particularly important are elk, bear, and water birds. And finally, we have the shaman, who's an individual who is a spiritual practitioner and mediator between the worlds, making them very important in society. And it can be interpreted that the burial at Bad Dürrenberg is a Mesolithic shaman. The two front upper teeth also show some unusual wear called the LSAMAT phenomenon, where the wear is angled towards the roof of the mouth. And this has been seen in many different times and places, and the exact cause is unknown, but it's often thought this happens when people use their front teeth like tools or as a third hand. Furthermore, open pulp cavities were identified that led to an infection in one of the woman's teeth, and the formation of an abscess that later spread to the maxillary sinus, which has been suggested to be her cause of death. About 80 years later, a garden show is scheduled to take place in the area where the burial was discovered, and this gave archaeologists the opportunity to finally re-examine the site. Traces of red ochre in the soil helped locate the grave, and a 5-metre trench revealed soil disturbances linked to the prior interventions and unearthed red ochre deposits and artefacts consistent with the known finds. The burial's pit structure was finally documented, showing a chambered-like installation with clay-lined wattle walls. Human skeletal remains belonging to the adult female and the infant were found, along with faunal and archaeological objects. One of the most important of these was the discovery of a petrous bone belonging to the infant, which made genetic examination of this individual finally possible. Between 2003 and 2006, researchers extracted ancient DNA from the remains at Bad Dürrenberg. The phenotypic variants analysed inform us that she had relatively dark skin, dark straight hair, and blue eyes. This combination was common among hunter-gatherer Mesolithic individuals from Western Europe, and the shaman woman shared this appearance with some contemporary Mesolithic individuals such as Shaman, who was found in Somerset. One of the most important questions needed to be answered was, what was the relationship between the woman and the infant? Was she the mother, a distant relative, or not related at all? Through genetic sexing, the infant was identified as a boy and found to share the same mitochondrial haplogroup and genetic ancestry as the woman, confirming that they lived during the same period and was definitely relevant to this burial. However, researchers discovered that the woman and the infant were not closely related. They weren't mother and son, siblings, or even aunt, nephew, or grandmother, grandson. Yet they weren't unrelated. Scientists determined their relationship as 4th or 5th degree, meaning they were distant maternal relatives. This could suggest some sort of generational ties, such as the woman being the boy's great-great-grandmother, or lateral ones, such as first cousins once or twice removed, or a great-grand-aunt. If they were separated by 4 to 5 generations, the temporal gap of 60 to 80 years makes it unlikely that the woman was aware of the boy. This petrous bone of the boy also allows for radiocarbon dating of his burial. This is underway but not been released yet, so be sure to subscribe for more archaeology content, and I can't wait till these results come out. Another discovery made during the reevaluation was just 3 feet away from the shaman's grave. The researchers found a small pit with 2 red deer antler headdresses pointing towards her burial, a placement likely intentional. It's no surprise that the shaman was honoured with offerings, but radiocarbon dated show these headdresses were placed there 600 years after she was buried. And this happened during a major cold spell in prehistoric Europe, suggesting that the later Mesolithic people might have sought the shaman's guidance or help during tough times. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, please like and do subscribe for more archaeology content. Let me know what you think of this Mesolithic burial in the comments below and any other topics you'd like to see videos on, and I'll see you in the next video.